Would I be the a-hole if I cut my parents out of my life because they hold it against me that I didn't grieve my brother the same way they did? I, 18 male, was born an identical twin, and when my brother Cam and I were 4, he was diagnosed with cancer. For the next 3.5 years, our parents devoted their lives to saving Cam. They were told after a year that his diagnosis was terminal, and there was nothing that would ever cure him, but they never gave up. They put him into a bunch of clinical trials and got second, third, fourth, and even fifth opinions. They borrowed money from everyone they could and took out loans to afford different doctors. In those years, everything was centered around what he wanted and what would make him happy, including our shared bedroom. We were given a double bunk bed where he got the double bed and I got the single top bunk. Our room was decorated with all his favorite cartoon characters. Our parents dressed us identically again in his choice of clothes when we had been allowed to pick our own. Our birthdays were his birthdays only, and even though Cam tried to include me in the last 2, he wasn't able to because our parents were determined to make the most of him. It was rough, and to be honest, it was lonely back then. I loved my brother, and he loved me. I never hated him. But our parents would be in and out of our room all night checking on him and ignoring me. They'd wake me up when they had to give Cam meds or wanted to monitor his blood pressure or temperature. And if I stirred or asked what was going on, they ignored it. There were days I went to school exhausted and would fall asleep in class. Then Cam died the one night we shared the bottom bunk with each other. My parents were so mad that I didn't get them when Cam wanted me during the night. They were furious with me. They accused me several times of robbing them of his final moments. After Cam died, our room became a shrine to him. It wasn't supposed to be touched or changed at all. I was kept in the single bunk, and his double part was kept in the same bedclothes as the night he died. Whenever I even looked at it too much, they would get mad at me. They'd say it was his bunk, not mine. Even 10 years later, they would say how awful I was to want to steal Cam's bed from him. The one and only time I asked if the room could be redecorated because I was older and wanted a more grown-up room, they almost unalived me, I swear. I don't know why they didn't attack me, but they moved like they would, and looked like they would. They did yell a lot, and they made several accusations, like I never loved Cam, I was trying to erase him, that I hated them, and I stomped all over their grief. It was intense. They told me I knew I liked the room being the way it always was, so I was selfish for asking to take that away from them. When I asked to move out of the room, it was another thing they held against me and hated me for. That room being my bedroom still felt so wrong. I was surrounded by Cam and suffocated by his memory, and they just saw it as me hating him. They said I needed to be in Cam's room because I was always in there and it couldn't change. I preferred to remember him on our birthday. My parents completely ignored our birthday, and me that day, and only wanted to remember his anniversary, and they got so upset when it wasn't my focus. This stuff, and way more, was thrown in my face all the time while I still lived there. I tried talking to others about it, who talked to my parents, and it just never changed anything. They didn't want help. They didn't want to accept that I could grieve differently than them. I went to stay with a friend's family the day before my birthday, and I haven't gone back since. I didn't block my parents either, and whenever I see them, I don't ignore that they're there. But I kind of wonder if I need to. I don't think they're good for me, and they accused me of abandoning them one of the times I saw them. I guess in a way I have, because I feel like I need to. But would I be the a-hole if I cut them out of my life because of everything? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Block them and finally live your life. Your parents are the ones who neglected and abandoned you, and because of that, they lost both of their sons. I think that will be the best long-term thing for me. Having them in my life is never going to be really that healthy. Tell them they abandoned you 14 years ago. Please, get some counseling to help you heal from their abuse. This is a horrific story. They didn't acknowledge your grief, they didn't acknowledge your needs, and they didn't acknowledge your sadness. They blamed you for everything. That is a terribly cruel thing to do to a young child. You're absolutely right to cut them off completely. It's astonishing that they would say you abandoned them when they basically abandoned you as a child. I can't tell you how sorry I am for you that this happened to you. I hope you're getting counseling to deal with it because it has to have damaged you to grow up with that kind of treatment. Please do cut them out of your life, not the a-hole. I'm thinking they might have assumed they would always have me to take their anger out on. Now they don't. They can't scream at me for not remembering how they want me to, or for stealing his final moments from them. All they have is each other now in reality. Not the a-hole. They were awful to you and continue to be awful to you. You can't get a good childhood back, but may the rest of your life be filled with people who love and treasure you. Thank you. I'd like to have a happier life. I'd love to be able to remember my brother without drowning in his loss. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not siding with my wife over our son's ex-girlfriend's pregnancy? Our son, who just turned 16, had a girlfriend. She's 16, almost 17, but they broke up about a month ago. About 3 weeks ago, we were informed by her parents that she is pregnant. She is slightly showing. The dates line up with my son's relationship. My wife and I went into full panic mode. We waited a couple of days before telling our son, who didn't know. He immediately said, "It's not mine. I never slept with her." I didn't believe him as I know he is active. He did the sensible thing and asked me for protection. However, he kept on saying they never did it. He said he cheated on her. I had a heart-to-heart with him, and he is an absolute craphead, but I began to believe him. He said he always raps and he has asked for restocks. My wife, on the other hand, still didn't believe him. Both families met. My wife started the conversation, just accepting that our son is the father and was trying to figure out a solution, funding, etc. My son spoke up, saying it's not his baby as they never had sex. He was genuinely angry. Then he made a comment that I'm going to rephrase. Apparently, they only ever did a certain act which can't result in a baby, and it was unsatisfactory, so he never went any further with her. An absolute craphead, and we raged at him over it. His ex-girlfriend admits they rarely did it, but explained the event, the when and where, and I will say it was believable too. I know he's a complete liar. I know he is an absolute dog, but I believe him still. My wife, however, is angry with me for playing into his nonsense. She said I'm part of the boy culture. She said children born to teen parents are more likely to be teen parents, and we were both 17 when my wife got pregnant. She said I'm worsening the situation by not living in reality, and she is left to figure out what to do on her own. To her point, I am hands-off on further meetings with the other family. I don't believe we should have those discussions until it's proven he's the dad. Am I the a-hole? Also, this is really ranty. I'm sorry, but I needed to let off some steam. Just to add, her parents don't want to do a paternity test until after the child is born. They said it could harm the baby, but apparently it's harmless, so I don't know. So we cannot get a test done before then. Stop fighting and get a paternity test. Teenagers aren't the brightest when it comes to sex and pregnancy. The paternity testing will clear up the whole who did what, and you can proceed rationally from there. They can get a court order now. There's no harm to the pregnancy. That's just a dodge folks try to use, especially if this is a cash grab from the girlfriend's family. As a former family attorney, I'm fully of the belief that parents should take pregnant minor daughters down to Planned Parenthood and then to counseling, because there's no need for anyone's life to get ruined, because stupid teenagered, but especially an innocent baby. You do nothing until there's a confirmed paternity test. Yeah, what else is there to say? The son sounds like a self-serving little a-hole who is fully capable of lying his butt off to weasel out of accountability, but you're literally not gonna know anything until one of them confesses to lying or paternity is tested. Also, do not sign the birth certificate until a DNA test has been done. By signing the birth certificate, your son is making a legal declaration that he is the father, which in some places is nearly impossible to undo. This, and if he gets anything about going to court, make sure he goes. Or he could be named father by default. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to help my mom and her fiancé with his disabled child? I, 20 male, moved out of my mom's 42 female house a couple of years ago when I went to college. Until 10 months ago, I had my own room there, but her fiancé, 45 male, and his 2 kids, 6 male and 4 female, moved in with her. The 4-year-old has a host of disabilities. I know she has a seizure disorder and a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta. But I believe there's another one involving paralysis or spasms of the stomach or esophagus. My mom took classes for over 2 months before her fiancé moved in, so she would know how to take care of his daughter. Her fiancé's ex is totally out of the picture, so mom decided she would need to step up completely, which I get. I have been back twice since mom's fiancé moved in with his kids. The first time was at Christmas, and I stayed with my grandparents because my old room went to the 4-year-old and there was no spare room for me. My mom was disappointed, but I pointed out it would stop me from getting in the way of their routine too. The second time was late June or early July. I was home for a few weeks and again stayed with my grandparents. Mom offered to buy a pull-out bed for me, but I said I was good with my grandparents. When I was home and whenever I went to mom's, I was asked if I had looked into taking the same classes mom had, or if I'd like them to set me up with them. I said no and asked why I'd need to take them. Mom said she had hoped I would want to help them. She said it would mean I could step in if an emergency came up, and I told mom she'd be better off finding someone professional for that because I was not taking on that responsibility. Her fiancé asked if I'm just never going to stay at the house, and I said yes. I told them I would have 0 privacy if I slept there, and it wouldn't benefit any of us. I pointed out how they'd be so busy anyway, that I wouldn't have time with mom that much, and I'd get just as much staying somewhere else and planning ahead of time to visit when she's not super busy. Her fiancé then said it sounded like I didn't want to learn how to care for his daughter and planned to be limitedly involved with him and his kids. I said I'll see them when I see mom, but I won't be signing up for babysitting or future caregiver responsibilities. Mom and I went for a walk together after I said that, and she told me she got it, but that she hoped I'd be willing. She said it's a lot to ask, and I don't even live that close anymore, so it would never be all the time. But she asked me if I was really that unwilling to even give them a few hours off when I would visit. She said it would be so helpful. I told her I would visit and want to spend time with her, but babysitting her future stepkids was not in my plans, and especially not one so medically complex and in need of specific care. She was upset, but let it go. Her fiancé is holding a grudge about it. He brought it up to my grandparents when Christmas was mentioned. They said they got the feeling he was also annoyed they gave me a place to stay during my visits because it gives me an excuse not to get closer to his kids and therefore be more willing to learn how to take care of his daughter. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. This is a heavy ask for anyone, let alone someone who doesn't live there and didn't sign up for it. If they need real respite care, that's what professionals are for, not the college-age son of the fiancé. It's good you are clear now instead of half committing and then resenting it later. There was no way I was going to leave it unclear, because that's how you get guilt-tripped to hell, and calls from classes you never signed up for. I wanted no part of that added drama. And yes, it's a huge ask. Not only because of all the care needs, but in an actual emergency or something, I'd be dropping everything and going to another state to provide a ton of care for a child who will always need a lot of care. Good for you. I am proud you were clear and direct. He wants free babysitting is what it comes down to. Sounds like they are not only wanting a babysitter for a few hours off, but someone who is going to take care of those children indefinitely if anything happens to either of them. That's what I believe the long-term plan is. I don't know if he plans for his son to take over for his daughter when his son's older, but I suspect he's thinking I'd be an even better choice. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not solving the problem by punishing my daughter? I have 4 kids, and one, Nora 16 female, still lives with me. One of my sons, 38 male Jeremy, recently went completely broke. I won't get into details, but it wasn't his fault and just a series of bad luck. He asked to move in with me and I agreed. The problem is that he doesn't get along with Nora. I allowed Nora to take my old car when she got her license. Now Jeremy wants to use the car because he needs it more than a teenager, and Nora will not allow it. Another problem is food. Both my wife and I are vegan, and we don't buy anything non-vegan, though our kids are allowed to buy anything they want with their own money. Nora is not vegan, and she buys and cooks her own meals. My daughter-in-law, who is pregnant, is upset that Nora refuses to share and eats her cravings in front of her. She has asked us to buy non-vegan food as well, which morally I cannot do. Another problem is the room arrangements. My wife and I are on the first floor and everyone else is on the second floor. Nora has a habit of playing violin whenever she wants. It was never a problem for us. Now they have a problem with it and think Nora needs to get used to not playing as much because once the baby arrives, which is very soon, they are worried the baby won't be able to sleep. The last problem is that Nora refuses to let them use her bathroom. There are 2 bathrooms upstairs, and one has always been Nora's, and the other one can be used by anyone. They think their son, my grandson Peter, 17, should share Nora's bathroom. They have been fighting non-stop and I'm tired of it. They told me to solve the problem, and by solving they meant force Nora to do what they want. And I told them if they bother me again, I will solve the problem by kicking them out. I have a responsibility to my minor child, but I don't have a responsibility to them. Now they think I'm an a-hole. How many people moved in? Your son, his wife, their son, a baby on the way? Yes, you can help your son out temporarily, but Nora is still a minor child living in the family home. Your son doesn't get to ask for help and then demand everything suit him. The only reasonable request here would be asking Nora to have some quiet hours with the violin, perhaps midnight to 8 a.m. or something like that. Everything else is unreasonable. Jeremy sounds like a problem. You give him an inch and he wants a mile. He moved in with you. Now he wants your car. He wants his sister to buy him and his wife food and give up her space. He is such a greedy a-hole. I understand that you let him move in because he is your son, but he's a horrible person. Why is Jeremy such a screw-up? Like the financial issue can be overlooked, but why is he an a-hole? What went wrong with his upbringing? My wife. She thought Jeremy was the most special boy on earth. She did everything for him, even his chores. Out of all my kids, he is the only one who didn't become successful. I mean, yeah, going broke wasn't his fault, but the fact that he didn't have a very good job and doesn't have many skills also contributed to this situation.